Hello, this is 2-7. This is subtracting decimals. So you already did addition of decimals, and most of you did very well. The main thing that we learned from that lesson was that we have to line up the decimals. Same goes for subtracting. So label your new page this, please. So here's our first example. It is 7.21, so I do want you to write this in your spiral. 7.21 minus 6.1, and we are subtracting, so there is nothing here. You can either leave it blank or you could fill it in with a 0. So I'll just make the 0 a different color in case you wanted to put that 0 there. If not, you don't have to. And we're going to go straight down, starting in our hundredths place. So 1 minus 0 is 1. Then 2 minus 1 is 1. And we drop that decimal straight down just like we did in our addition problems. And then 7 minus 6 is 1. So our answer would be 1.11. So some of you are thinking, okay, this is totally going to be easy. The only thing, it will be easy, but the only thing that will trip some of you up is the fact that we're going to have to borrow on some problems. So we're going to do another example kind of like this with subtraction, but we are going to have to borrow. So our next one that I would like you to write down in your spirals is 7.8 minus 4.9. All right, so up top, I have my bigger number, which is 7.8. So I know I have it written correctly. But the problem I see right now is I cannot take 9 away from 8. So if I have 8 circles over here, I can't take 9 away because there's not 9 to take away from. There's only 8. So I need to borrow or regroup, whichever you have learned. So I would make my 8, I would borrow from my 7, make that a 6, and I would make my 8 into an 18, and then I would just go straight down like I did before. So 18 minus 9, I can be proactive. I'll do my decimal. Then 18 minus 9 is 9, and 6 minus 4 is 2. So my answer would be 2.9. So I just you've got to make sure on these problems that if you regroup, you do that right away. So if you see that this second number is bigger than this first number, that's when you know you need to regroup. All right, this is the last example I'm going to give you. And I'm going to write it like this because I'm going to show you how I flip it and how awkward it's going to look at first. So I need to make it vertical, up and down, and so I am going to go ahead and put 56 on top because 56 is bigger than 2, 56.8. I'm going to space that out a minute. Hang on. Sorry, I wanted to make the spaces a little bit bigger so I know what I'm doing. Okay, now I got to line up the decimal. So I can see that the 2 comes before the decimal, then after the decimal is 765. So that looks pretty funky, right? So I have I erased the original problem so we have more room to work. So in this case, if the numbers are up top and they are missing something, you know that we fill them in with zeros. So go ahead and do that along with me in your spiral so you can remember what to do if you ever look back. All right, now the tricky stuff begins, the borrowing or regrouping. All right, so we put the placeholders of 0 in, now we need to borrow. So I cannot borrow from this 0. I cannot borrow from this second 0. So I need to borrow from my 8. So whichever way you learned, go with that way. The way that I was taught is I borrow from this guy and make it a 10. I borrow from this guy, make it a 9. But I have to borrow from this 8 and make him a 7 because he's my first number that is not a 0. So that's kind of how I know when to stop. If you learned it the way where you do the 7 first, then the 9, then the 10, that's perfectly fine. As long as you get these numbers, we are golden. All right, and now we solve straight down. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 6, we have 3. 7 minus 7, 0. I was not proactive, but I can drop my decimal. 6 minus 2, and 5 minus nothing. So my answer would be 54.035. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple to try on your own for quiz questions. And wish me luck that I do not get any wrong. You will have 3 quiz questions. 3 quiz questions. All right, your first quiz question, I'm going to start with a hard one, is 14.905 minus 7.526. So go ahead and solve that. Make sure you write it vertically first, up and down, because that's going to help you solve it. All right, to solve this problem, first we need to write it vertically and make sure that those decimals are lined up so we can just drop it down. All right, now I have to start over here. 5, I cannot take 6, a bigger number, away from a smaller number of 5, so I need to borrow or regroup. So to regroup, go whichever way you prefer, but I need to take away from the 5, or I need to make the 5 into a 15. The 0, I have nothing to take it away from, so that means I have to even go over another one. So my 0 does not turn into a 10 because it's not on the end. I have to take another one away. So that's 9, and 1 less than 9 is 8, and I can stop there. So 15 minus 6 gives me 9. 9 minus 2, 7. 8 minus 5, 3. And 14 minus 7 is 7. So you should have gotten, and I should have gotten, 7.379. All right, this is your second problem. 65.29 minus 28.038. Go ahead and try to solve that. Make sure you put a placeholder in above the 8, and then I will explain it. All right, so to solve this one, I would put a 0 in my placeholder, and then I can start my subtraction. So I cannot take 8 away from 0 because that would be taking 8 away from I have nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and regroup or borrow and make this into a 10 and make the 9 into an 8. And then I can start subtracting. So go straight down. 10 minus 8 is 2. 8 minus 3, 5. And then 2 minus 0 is 2. Drop down my decimal. Well, now I ran into another problem. I cannot take 8 away from 5. So I have to start the regrouping process all the way over. So I make the 5 into a 15 just like I would if it were over here at the end of the problem. And I make my 6 into a 5. So 15 minus 8 would give me my 6, and 5 minus 2 would be 3. So your answer is 36.252. All right, this is your last quiz problem. It is 15.03 minus 4.121. So make sure you write it vertically and then answer the problem. All right, when solving this and I write it vertically, I need to make sure my decimals line up and also my numbers line up. I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 in this placeholder so I have something to work with, and then I can start subtracting. All right, so I'm going to need to start by regrouping, change my 0 into a 10 and borrow 1 from the 3. 10 minus 1 is 9. 2 minus 2, 0. And then I kind of run into a problem. Over here, I cannot take 1 away from 0. So I need to start the regrouping process again. And so I need to borrow 1 from this 5, make it a 4, and make this into a 10 again. So 10 minus 1 is 9. Drop down my decimal. And then 4 minus 4, 0. And we cannot forget about this 1. Drop down the 1, and your answer should be 10.909. If you're wondering why my voice changed halfway through the video, I made half of it before the Taylor Swift concert and the other half after, and Taylor won. I have no voice. I sang my heart out. All right. Well, I hope this made sense. If it did not, come do your practice work with me at the back table. If you have any questions, please come ask, and I will talk to you later. Bye.